lot of you know that I ride with Run for the Wall every year, which is a coast-to-coast motorcycle ride from Los Angeles, California to Washington, D.C., and it's predominantly to raise awareness about a lot of different veterans issues. It kind of started as a POW MIA type of thing, but it's gotten huge and evolved to encompass really a lot of veterans issues, and it's something I look forward to every year. I ride as one of their chaplains, and just a really great opportunity, and really look forward to it. The problem that I have is that usually I'm in a hurry when it's done. I have to, book it home or book it to the next event or something like that. And this year was no exception. And my wife and I were just hightailing it down the road. And I was so happy because I was making really good time. And I forget what state line we had crossed, but those are kind of, for me, every time I cross a state line, I honk my horn and I get all happy. Have no idea why. It's just that kind of thing. All right, one more state down and 19 more to go or something like that. And so we had just crossed a state line, and I needed to stop for some fuel, and so we got our fuel, and we were just having to go so fast trying to make those miles just melt away and book home. And so we're riding really hard, and I got the fuel, and here we're just cruising along again, and I crossed the state line again. I was like, wow, this must be one of those weird horseshoe states where you keep crossing the state line. And the further we went, I thought, boy, that exit looks familiar, and oh my goodness, is this a horseshoe-shaped town that stretched like 95 miles, and I'm now in the same town again? Then I started wondering if I was in the Twilight Zone, because I couldn't have been so stupid as to get on the interstate going the wrong way. And then I looked, and sure enough, I was going east again. And I was so aggravated with myself because I was trying to make time, and I just added like about 90 miles to my trip for nothing. And it was a very frustrating time. There's been other times that I've been trying to get somewhere that I have no idea where I'm going. I have the general idea, but you know how in some places one road becomes like 18 roads for like about a mile, and if you miss your little spur off of it, you're kind of in trouble. And that happens quite a bit, but unless there's some really weird thing where if I get off track a little bit, I'm in trouble, I'll usually, if I'm just going the right direction, I'll just kind of ride the fuel out and figure out where I'm at once I stop. And those are some of the best little misadventures that I've ever had on my motorcycle. Being on a road that I didn't actually intend to be on, but finding something that is just incredible. Has that ever happened to anybody else? Have you ever stumbled across something? You're just on a road and all of a sudden you want to bring all your friends on that same road? Has that ever happened to you? That's usually where we find some of the best places to eat and some of the most unusual spots in the road. I heard Weird Al singing a song about the largest ball of twine in Minnesota. I don't know if you've ever heard, I think it was Minnesota, but who knows when you're on a road that you don't know exactly where you're going, who knows what you're going to come across, So, but I want to talk tonight about unexpected directions. I believe that as we follow God, He takes us a lot of times somewhere where we never intended to go. But it's kind of weird when I look back on my life and at certain ages where I thought I knew what I was going to be. I remember when I was very young, I was certain by now I would be a practicing veterinarian. There is no way on earth I'd do anything else except help and to heal animals. That's just what I wanted to do. As I got a little older, I think I thought I would be a rock star by now, and doing the talk show circuit and talking about how great things used to be, or something like that. But it's kind of odd when you look back at your life and you see these times and places where the direction got changed one way or the other. Maybe it's something that you thought was going to be a career, and then one day it wasn't at all. When I said that Diane Butt's project with the 168-hour film project, that was something she said she never envisioned that she would be writing for film. And it's neat when some of those things happen. When I was a kid, and I might have shared this before, but I used to love to tear things apart because I had to know how they worked. My parents hated that because when I was young, of course, I could tear them apart, but I could never get them back together. But I learned pretty quick how a record player, well, no, I didn't really know how it worked, but I definitely knew there was a little engine in there with a belt, and if you touched it, it would pop off and stuff like that. Just used to tear things apart all the time because I always wanted to know how they worked. One of my prized possessions when I was younger was the inside of a Bullseye pocket watch. Anybody remember Bullseye pocket watches? Or what was called a dollar watch, real cheap thing. And I tore that thing apart because I had to see how it worked. And then I carried it around in my pocket, and I could wind it with a little screwdriver and show people how it was. And that was just kind of my thing. And like I said, my parents hated that. But as I got older, something else started to happen. Not only could I tear things apart, but I started to be able to put them back together. I love the fact when I got my first car, the guy that sold it to me, he did me a great favor. It was a Volkswagen Bug, my very first car. Loved that car. But he bought me this book, and it's what Volkswagen people call the idiot manual. I don't know if any other Volkswagen people in here? Am I the only crazy one? Did you ever have the idiot book? No. Well, the idiot book, it was great because it said it was a complete repair manual for the total idiot. So it was like the very first dummy book. Now you can go to the dummy section, and I think it's like getting to be the biggest section in the entire bookstore. But the guy that sold me the car, he bought me that manual, and he said, "Here," he said, "this'll tell you everything you need to know." And I didn't know anything about Volkswagens. I can remember the first time that I was changing the oil, because you didn't just drop a plug in a Volkswagen. You had to take this little plate off, and my hands were shaking as I did that because I was so afraid that I was going to screw something up. And I did. I stripped out one of the little studs in there and stuff, but the book told me how to get everything back together, and it was wonderful. Now, pretty much anything I have that's broken, I go ahead and give it a go and see if I can fix it. Sometimes it turns out well, sometimes it didn't. But in our lives, a lot of times we have this thing planned out. We think we know how it's all going to go. We've got everything figured. We've looked at all the angles. We've prepared. We've strategized. We've sought advice. We've prayed. And in other words, we do all the right stuff, and it still turns out different than we planned. That makes life kind of interesting. There's variety, but it makes it frustrating because there's uncertainty. As a Christian, I've come to understand and learn that God regularly and purposefully takes the lives of His children in very unexpected directions. It's what makes us into the men and women that He needs us to be. When you've gotten to a situation in your life that you don't understand or you're confused, just